So my demo is about two-factor authentication. So there has been few demos lately by me about around two-factor authentication. So one of the challenges that we have with the current two-factor authentication that's merged is that the UI is not extensible. And we only have Authenticator app to use as a two-factor authentication. So sometimes you might not want an Authenticator app. You might want to authenticate and use other methods like email or SMS or whatever, right? So I created another. Well, the PR isn't in yet because I have some cleanup to do, but hopefully this will allow you to create a new PR. So with this new PR, the new change, we have a way to extend the two-factor authentication in a way where we can say, I want to enable app authenticator, I want to enable an email authenticator, and maybe you can implement your own SMS authenticator, whatever the case might be. So one of the, so let me go ahead and kind of show what changed, and then I'll kind of go through and about the stuff that I had to change in order to accomplish this. So I'm logged in as a user for the first time. So this is new. So right now I have enabled two methods for authentication, the Authenticator app and also authentication, email authentication. So as you can see, when I logged in, I am required to log in or to enable my authentication because this user that I'm logged in with is an administrator. And part of the settings states that admins must enable two-factor authentication. So as you can see here, it's a, two-factor authentication is disabled. In order to enable it, activate one of those methods. So in here, you'll see two buttons. So this right here will allow you to authenticate or enable the email authentication. And it's not enabled because you haven't confirmed that email. I created an email. So I just want to show that process. That's why I haven't confirmed anything. So if I want to enable the authenticator, I'm going to request a code and I'm going to get an email with the code. I'm going to copy that code and verify it. And if things work, there you go. So now my email has been confirmed, and these are my recovery code because this is the first time I actually enabled two-factor authentication. So this is my codes to log in with. If I go back to that same screen under security, you're going to see that my email is now verified and two-factor authentication is enabled because I just enabled it. Okay, I can also add a second one, which is Authentication app, and here I'm going to go ahead and do it before Sebastian goes and scans his phone. So, and let's see, 579432. Let's go ahead and confirm. And there you go. So now I have two methods of authentication enabled for this one user. Because I have more than one method, you'll see there's a new option here that's asking you which is your preferred method, if you care, right? So let's say, hey, I want the email authenticator to be the default. Again, you don't have to update it. I'm just going to update it just because I want to show you guys how this whole works. And now that I'm logged in and I have two-factor authentication enabled, I want to log out and I want to log back in, and let's see what happened. So, okay, so the first thing, it's asking me based on my preference, it's asking me to authenticate using an email. If for some reason I don't have access to this email, there's a new option here, say having trouble, sign in another way. You can also log in with your recovery codes if you have them. But just because it's a new feature, I'm going to click on sign in another way. And because I click sign another way, now it's prompting me to go with my other method, which is my non-default, which is the app authenticator. So now I can try whichever method I want, and hopefully both will work. Since we are here, let me go do this and log in, and now I am logged in. So this right here is much more extensible because now if you want to implement your own SMS provider, you can very easily enhance and add an option here for the third method of options. And also, to make it even better, I created features for each one of those. So App Authenticator is a feature. Obviously, if you disable it, it's no longer here. And also email authentication is a feature that you can enable and disable, because sometimes you might not want to utilize Authenticator app period because you don't want, for whatever reason, right? So if that's the case, maybe you only want your application to utilize this method. So if you do that, then only you will see this option. If we go here and we look at the features, so there's the two methods that are available. One of them is the email method and the authentication app. I haven't done a lot of testing, so I don't really want to disable one right now because there could be some issues that I haven't tested just for the sake of this demo. That's why I haven't submitted a PR yet, because the code isn't 100% ready yet. And so another thing that was added is if you go to the user settings. Oops, I have a breakpoint in my code. Hold on. Let it continue. So if you go to the user settings, obviously you've seen this before, which is two-factor authentication tab. And that tab is automatically available as soon as you enable one method. So if we go here, you'll see an option. Well, these options we have seen last time, but I've added these option right here, which is an email authenticator settings. So if you want to change the message, the email that goes out, you can go in here and actually change that email, the body, and the body also supports Liquid. So you can design it or change it for whatever it is that you want in the email subject and the email body as well. And another one other thing that around the features that was changed. So you'll see that there's three features related to two-factor. There is this one's two-factor authentication service, but this one you can enable and disable it. And the reason why, because this one is set to auto. Basically, it's a feature on demand. So the second you enable one of these two, this will automatically be enabled as well. And if you disable these two, this one will go away and you won't have the two-factor authentication available. Also, this security, it's a shape now, so we inject it using shape. It's better than before. Before we kind of hard coded it, so it allows us to extend this menu as well. And I think that's all I have. Questions, comments, concerns? Let me know.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really great. I would have two questions. Probably at least one of these you covered in previous demos. Forgive me if that's a repetition. One of them is, can you configure this to not require two-factor authentication for external logins?
What's external logins?
Yeah, like Azure Active Directory, Google login.
To not require two-factor authentication for them?
No, because these have their own two-factor authentication.
Yeah, so the idea would be that if you use something like Azure AD to log in, then, well, everything authentication related is outsourced to Azure AD, so you shouldn't require a local two-factor authentication code either. Then
just disable it. Or you mean you want to enable it only for local users, but not enable it for external users?
Yeah, exactly.
Or that's not an option right now, but I'm sure you can. I'm not familiar with AD, with Azure AD, so I don't really know, but I'm pretty sure that we can, we can change some stuff to allow that scenario. But right now, basically, if you're using this app as a whole, if you have you can require it or not require it. So in here, there's a require two-factor authentication. You can require for absolutely everyone. And this other option, you can require for specific roles. So if you want just admins to be required, then it is required. Maybe we need to add an option here that say, do not require two-factor or external users or something like that. And then, so we it's doable, but it's not built in.
I was also thinking about a new option here or something like that. Using the roles option can be a workaround because, for example, for Azure ED or any external authentication, you can configure a script that will add their role, so you can have a separate role for those users. So yeah, that can be a workaround. Okay, my second question would be about any manual intervention that admins can do for other users. So I foresee cases where people forget or lose the two-factor authentication device or whatever. They lose the recovery codes as well and everything, and they call me that, hey, I need to access the site. And then I, as an administrator of this application, need to be able to kind of reset everything for them. Is that possible?
No, right now it isn't, but that's an easy option we can add probably to the users, where you can say, hey, disable their two-factor authentication. We might be able to add that, but no, that's not an option today.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be quite useful.
Yeah, I'm sure as Mike starts using it, then if there are actual issues with actual users, then Mike will implement these features.
Yep. I mean, one of the whole reason why I kind of made it extensible, because and where we need to use the two-factor authentication, we can't have the users use their phone. They're all corporate users and they can't use phones. And so because of that, we have to have another option, which is like an email authenticator to allow them to provide the code from a code. So, but either way, the beauty now, it's just extensible, is that you can add whatever it is that you want. If you want this or that or both, or if you want to add another one, because I know there's another PR trying to allow or add an SMS or like a phone number support for the user, because the end goal is to allow SMS authentication for two factors. So I think this will be great.
That's great. Awesome. And the UI is very nice also.